So you want to open a gym, but you need seed money. How about smuggling cigars out of Cuba to get it? We'll show you how.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
And we are back for another installment of the Palumbo Podcast. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by my compatriot in crime, John Romano. And we are back. We made a commitment after New Year's. Although we both don't believe in New Year's resolutions, we made a commitment. We said we're going to do the podcast again on a regular basis because people like our chemistry and they like to hear our ridiculous wit and humor and complaining and kvetching, as they say. So we're back. We're doing it again. And you actually been telling me about your friend Scott for, I can't even tell you how many years you've been telling me about Scott. I mean, he's the guy who you had the gym with down in Mexico. And you've told me some crazy stories about cigar smuggling that he did. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just get him on the show already, because it sounds like it's a great story. Now, he wrote a book, right?
Yes. He wrote a book called Smoke. Oh, it's backwards on my phone, but Smoke. And it is basically, look, smuggling cigars out of Cuba is a scratch in the iceberg that is Scott Anthony. Okay. This guy, he is the real deal. You want to talk about OGs, original gangsters? Right. He's the original gangster. Remember the Dos Equis commercial with the most interesting man in the world? It's not him. It's Scott. You can't imagine. You cannot imagine not only the number of stories, but the severity of the inferences in his stories are insane. I mean,
are they more insane than Larry?
No. Larry's in kindergarten compared to this guy. Not even close. I'm talking home invasions, ripping off hookers, ripping off drug dealers, running around the streets of Chicago, cops undercover. I mean, you can't even imagine this shit. But the starting point, I would think, in his is the most outlandish is his experience smuggling cigars, Cuban cigars out of Cuba, through Mexico, into Chicago, into the hands of people like Michael Jordan. Okay, wow. So this is an unbelievable tale filled with unbelievable tales. So, and they're all true. I can vouch for this guy. I've known him for 30 years. Everything is true. He is the real deal. So this is no fluff, man. This is the truth.
Now, his name is Scott Anthony. Is there any relation to Derek Anthony or no?
No, because Anthony's not really his name.
Well, Anthony wasn't Derek's name either. So.
I mean, it's his name, but it's not his name.
No, it wasn't Derek's last name either.
That's true. It wasn't Derek. Right, Derek. Right. There was Derek Anthony and Scott Anthony, but they're not related. They both have other Italian last names.
Gotcha.
Except for Scott.
All right, let's bring him in because I'm dying to know what the big appeal is about Cuban cigars. I want to know about this.
Oh, it's very important. Yeah.
All right, Scott Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how are you? And I want to correct John Romano on one thing.
What?
He said,
we can't hear you.
I can hear him.
Hear me.
I hear him fine.
You do?
I hear him fine. Yes.
Why the hell can't I hear him?
I don't know. You're deaf, maybe. I don't know. He's fine.
No, I hear you. I hear you just fine.
1, 2, 3, John. 1, 2, 3.
The fuck?
Why wouldn't you be able to hear him? That's kind of weird.
I don't know. I can hear you perfectly.
There's always glitches. You heard him before we started the show. It's got to be something you're doing.
Take me out and put me back in. Try that.
All right. I'll kick him from the studio.
More work for the editor.
That's right. Well, we don't edit anything. We don't care. We like to show our flubs and our
I saw that in Joe Rogan's first podcast. He just did it off the cuff and everyone liked it.
Well, you know what it is? I think it's more authentic because there is no such thing as perfection, Scott. You know that. And when people try to portray themselves as being perfect, I think that there's an air of phoniness that that gets put out there. And
I agree.
And I don't want anyone to ever accuse me of being a phony. Like that's like my father hated that. We would go to like parties, or we would go to like places, and he'd be like, "That guy's a phony." I'm like, "How do you know?" He's like,
Dave. You know, my mother's maiden name is Palumbo.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah. So it sounds like my family. Your father was from? Related to my family.
Where are you guys from? What part of
a town called Rigigliano, near
No,
Naples.
I mean where in the United States did you guys
Chicago.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of Palumbos in Chicago. Let's see. So we got John back here. Now we can't see him. John
back, John.
Oh, Scott and I are related.
Yeah. You are?
Can you hear me, John?
I can now. I can hear. Yeah, now I can hear everybody.
Okay.
Scott's mother's maiden name is Palumbo. Did you know that?
I did not know that. How did I not know that?
I don't know.
Yeah. And Scott Anthony is my name. It's just my middle name.
That's right. That's right.
I think that was Derek's middle name too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The surname was stained and spotted, so I got rid of that along the way.
Gotcha. Well, you can use the maiden name. Palumbo's all right. That's we're okay with that one.
Yeah.
John and I are convinced we're related anyway. Somewhere down the road, back in the.
I think that all Italians are related somewhere down the road.
It's the Sicilian side that I think we're related on.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so get back to what you're saying.
So let me give you a little background. Let me just give you a little background.
Scott's telling me a story already.
I didn't know it was gone. Okay, good.
Oh no, we were just again. Start, John. What you said, whatever you want.
Well, no, I mean, I touched on it.
We were talking about phonies. I was saying my father hated phonies, and because he was saying we'll just edit this out. I said, but now we can't because John and I are too authentic. I said because I hate people who like try to portray themselves as being perfect. I said, no one's perfect. And then I said, my father, this thing he had, we would go to stores and he'd be like, that guy's a phony. I'm like, how do you know? And, so now I'm always looking for people that like portray themselves as being too perfect. You ever like go out to eat with a couple and they're holding hands and like they kiss each other before one goes to the bathroom? That relationship sucks. It's just like
everything looks perfect. Everything looks perfect, but it really
phonies, right.
Then 3 weeks later, they're divorced.
Yeah. I mean, you can understand that in the first month of them being together. Where they're together for 17 years and they're still doing it. And no.
That's right. That means that he's got some chick on the side and she's, banging the trainer at the gym and,
Oh, that doesn't ever happen. That never happens, Dave.
Well, you guys
I got to tell you guys an interesting story. I was at a trade show in China about 4 or 6 months ago. And the owners of one of the factories where I produced some of my products invited me to dinner. When I got to dinner, they had 2 other guys there, Europeans. One was from like Holland, and the other one. Did I miss you guys? Are you guys still there?
We're there.
No, we're switching.
Okay.
We switched cameras.
So these were sitting around this round table, and they're strange looking Europeans. One guy is from Holland, the other guy's like from Switzerland. And they own gyms in Thailand. And their favorite podcast is RxMuscle.
Really? Well, they got great taste. What can I say?
They watch it religiously, and the guy could not accept that I knew you guys. I'm like, I know these guys. I said,
well, they have gyms in Thailand. They're probably into trannies. That's why. So
it was kind of like a bromance that they have with. He said, I go to sleep every night listening to RxMuscle. So congratulations to you guys.
Thank you. We made it big time.
I just can't imagine having a life that bad that you're going to sleep listening to us.
Chris goes to the cleaners with his kids, and the cleaners goes, oh my God, Chris Aceto. And he's like, his son's looking at him like, how the fuck does this guy know you? He's like, I listen to Heavy Muscle Radio.
You misstated something, John. You said that this story about the cigar smuggling, and you got to mention Confessions of a Cuban Cigar Smuggler, because that's like the key to finding it anywhere online. But anyway, you said that that's like the most outlandish, and that isn't completely accurate. That's what I did when I decided I wasn't going to break the law anymore.
Right.
When
But
So the smuggling was the most legal thing you were doing, is what you're saying.
Yes. It was the softest part of my criminal existence, and it was something I could
Why
live
are
with.
people so obsessed with Cuban cigars?
Wait,
That's what I
let's just say it was the least violent. Let's just say that.
Gotcha. All right. What, first of all, why are people?
We can say that.
Why are people so obsessed with Cuban cigars? Is it because they're illegal, or are they really that much better than all the other ones?
I think, well, it's kind of like we can look at a lot of restaurant chains and products out there. It's like the first one to hits the hardest. Cuba was the first place to produce cigars, and they were producing for Spain and England and all of these European countries. So it's probably number one because they were first. The allure is something. There's a romanticized thing about Cuban cigars, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, this kind of guerrilla warfare, military fatigues, and then add to it the fact that you can't get them. They're prohibited.
Right.
I think that adds a lot to it. Now, according to Cuban myth, and there's a lot of myth and hocus pocus out there with cigar critics and writers and writing them up and building the story, the flavors, the aroma, the smell. A cigar is a cigar. The only thing that really varies on flavor would be the size of the cigar, because the girth or the length can give you more smoke, less smoke. A thinner cigar will burn hotter, etc. But you ask a Cuban person who's been smoking cigars for 70 years, and they'll tell you a cigar is a cigar.
Oh, really?
Now,
that's interesting.
Purportedly in Cuba, they have this red clayed regions where the tobacco is grown, and that's supposed to make it richer and add some spice to it. I don't know how true that is, and I think it would be really difficult to lay down a bunch of cigars on a table and have a cigar taster, like a wine taster, pick which is which.
Really? So it's a lot of hype, then, is what you're saying.
I think there is a lot of hype involved in it. Yes.
What is Michael?
I don't know. Let me jump in there for a second.
Okay. All right.
A couple of the cigars I smoked that Scott gave me from Cuba.
You and I went to Cuba together, John.
I know.
Wow.
We did. but with respect to flavor and whatnot, I think there is a discernible difference in Cuban cigars versus the cheap, Puerto Rican ones or whatever that you get.
But you had a key word there, cheap. So let's compare them in this taste test, not to the crappy $2 cigar, but a good quality cigar from anywhere in the world. I'm going to tell you why. Here's a way to seal this deal. When I was selling my cigars and smuggling my cigars, I met a group of guys out of Miami that were bringing in Honduran cigars and wrapping and packaging them as Cubans right inside of the U.S. No real risk, no real smuggling, and people were buying them up like candy.
Wow.
And nobody ever said this cigar is bad.
Really? I guess it's how you prep it and everything like that, too. What would Michael Jordan pay for a Cuban cigar? Like, what are the box of cigars?
Michael Jordan asked for the best of the best. So I got stuff from Michael Jordan that nobody else could get. Michael liked large cigars, probably together with his stature and his size of his hands. And his go-to cigar was a double Corona, which is a pretty good sized cigar. And I would give him, from one of the best rollers, Andrea. She was one of the best rollers in Cuba. She was actually at one time one of the confidant, one of the trusted rollers of Fidel Castro, his private cigars. She rolled me these really, really special cigars, and they were, do you know what a torpedo is? A bellicoso. It's like, it starts at a point and goes out wider.
Yeah,
I haven't seen those yet, but
it's like a long cone.
Gotcha.
Well, it's like a long cone, kind of like a long cone, less subtle, more subtle, but
it's thinner at the mouth. Is what you're saying?
I would get those from Michael, and he would pay at that time. Now we're talking 1995, 96. He would pay $1,200 for a box of 25.
Wow. Okay.
And so would everybody else. I never charged anybody anything different because of their tax bracket.
What was the cigar that Bill Clinton was shoving up Monica Lewinsky's?
That was a double. That was a double Corona. Also,
she took the double. Well, she took the double up there. All right.
Wasn't a torpedo though. She took the whole thing.
It wasn't a torpedo. I think Hillary might have used the torpedo.
Yeah, she probably did. Afterwards, she used it. Yeah. So now, what's the process of getting a box of Cubans into the United States? How are you doing it?
Well, Dave,
and hold on, why are they illegal? First of all, because I think a lot of people don't know
the trade embargo.
Well, we got to put a slash across a box. I never brought a box. I brought boxes. I brought 500, 600 boxes at a time.
All right, that's a lot of money. What would you pay for a $1,200 box? Everyone always gets upset
when I was buying them on the street, when I was getting street cigars, that's what most people do. Most of the guys who are smuggling cigars, now I'm going to say 90 to 95% of the people who ever bring cigars from Cuba back to the U.S. are bringing street cigars.
Are they as good?
They could be, but sometimes, but it's a roll of the dice, and you have to really be in the know to be able to choose them from a supplier. So in the beginning, I brought those, and those boxes cost approximately $20 a piece.
Oh my God. Big market.
A lot depends on the roll, on how it's rolled. That's a big factor.
Depending on the thickness of the cigar, you have multi-layers of tobacco. So you could have 3, 4, or 5 leaves that are involved in one cigar. Gotcha. And the thicker would obviously have different and more leaves. And so you have to know the process of rolling it. It's just like rolling a homemade cigarette or a joint. If you know how to roll, you can roll it correct. If you don't know how to roll, it won't pull or it'll fall apart. Gotcha. And it'll burn crooked, etc. And a lot of the street people, they're not able to get all the materials needed.
I see. So, what does Arnold smoke? What does he smoke? Does he smoke Cubans?
Who?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Here you go. Anybody who can and has the option, their go-to cigar is a Cuban, hands down.
All right. Well, Arnold's got the money, so I'm sure.
I knew somebody who was selling cigars to Arnold. He used to go to Shotzi's right down the street from Gold's.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And he would sell them to Arnold. And Arnold went to the Partagas factory in Havana. So did Antonio Banderas, Melanie Griffith. Arnold
probably has him shipped right to his house from there. Yeah.
you know, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a high, a well-known celebrity that would go to Canada to get them on his private jet. And he told me when he would land at the airport in the U.S., the customs would just, he's at a private field. Customs agent would just come out and go, "How you doing?" Big shot celebrity, go fine. And he would just poke his head in there like this, look around and leave. And
they could have brought anything in,
anything he wanted.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say he gave the guy a box of cigars.
So what I think we ought to do first here is tie why we have Scott on the show to bodybuilding. What does Scott have to do with bodybuilding? Exactly. And very, very simply is Scott was the first Gold's Gym owner in Mexico, and he had the master franchisee for Gold. He was the master franchisee
for the development
of Gold's Gym in Mexico.
Yeah. I had the rights to the master franchisee to develop the entire country of Mexico.
And you had what?
Franchise.
Who gave that to you? Is that when Ed owned the gym?
Yes.
Well, I was friends with Ed, Pete, and Tim, and I don't want to leave his name out. Rich Minzer.
Right.
So
Pete's
I was
brother
with all of them. Got along with them. I opened my first Gold's Gym as just a franchisee. And then as time was going on, I was maturing, I was learning more about business, and I was getting more ambitious. I decided to approach Gold's for the master franchise. And they said to me, "Scott," and this was Paul Gronkowski. Do you remember Paul?
Yeah, Pete's brother. He
Brother.
passed away. a while
Yeah, he
ago.
passed away a few years ago. He was a great guy, Paul.
Great guy. Because I dealt with him when I bought my license.
Right,
And
right. And him and I talked about it all the time. How you had these plans and you did an entire market study and everything.
Yep.
And Paul said to me, Scott, this is perfect timing because my brother just dumped the franchise. He was paranoid about the economy. He thought everything was going down. And I, don't quote me on this. It's irrelevant either way. But I believe that Pete sold it for $42 million. That was what he sold it to. The next group who bought it, they sold it.
Oh no, Scott. So Ed, Pete, and Tim sold the whole thing for $42 million.
Yeah, the whole thing for $42 million. But
I thought they got more than that, John. No,
no,
I thought so too.
They got $42 million, and then they sold it to this group, Brockway Moran, who they were an investment group, and they held it. And their plan in the beginning was to hold it for 5 years and develop as many gyms as they possibly could. And they did. I think they might have developed and opened corporate-owned gyms, maybe 30, because they started consuming some smaller franchisees and putting it under the
I think some of the 24-hour fitness is converted to golds. Yeah.
Right. And then they sold it. They flipped it 5 years later for $160 million.
Oh my God.
To an investment group out of Dallas, Texas.
Who put it out of business. Yeah,
Right.
obviously.
And they didn't do well with it. You know what they did, Dave? They hired a bunch of yuppies and they got really hard ass and they lost their most faithful franchisees in the mix.
Yeah. Now you had what, 34 franchises and 6 of your own gyms?
Yes, exactly. I franchised 28 and then add my 6 to that. And so at the end of my period, they shot me in the forehead. The new guys that bought it, when you got money men and yuppies, it's worse than in the streets. Believe me, I've been on both sides. You're safer in the hands of the street guys than you are with corporate sharks.
Really?
Oh, they don't play by the game. I remember.
Did you make money when you sold the gyms, or did you lose?
No, I didn't sell the gyms, Dave. And you and I have something in common. I had a divorce.
Oh, sorry to hear
that. So
we've all had a divorce.
We've all had that.
At least one. I've had several.
So the gyms were ripped out of my hands, and my soul was ripped out through another part of my body. And it wasn't pretty.
No,
if I didn't have the divorce, I would today undoubtedly I would own 100 of my own gyms. I was just starting a pilot program. I was going to open satellite gyms. I was going to dominate the whole city of Guadalajara because I also sell gym equipment. And it was my passion.
Wait. Ho. He doesn't just sell gym equipment. He's got a 1 billion square foot enormous giant warehouse stuffed with gym equipment from every gym in America that went out of business, shipped it down to Mexico in this enormous warehouse, and then he would sell gym packages to a lot of the gyms that were his and others. And he would, powder coat them all the same color, refurbish them, and it was a huge operation. It's not just I sell gym equipment on the side. No, this was monstrous.
I'm thinking like a garage sale, like John.
Yeah, no. How many square feet is your warehouse?
110,000.
Wow, that's big. I guess the question I should be asking is, where did all the initial money come from to do all these businesses? Because it didn't come from cigars, right?
Well, it didn't, and it did. What happened is I was a very bad boy from the age of 9 until about 30, when I started waking up and growing up, and then I was recruited into the United States penal system. I was a fugitive for 5 years. And
5 years? Oh my God.
5 years and a day. So, and that's what I needed. I needed 5 years to kind of save myself from a life sentence.
Oh,
And
really?
and
did
so
you
they
do to get a life
recruited me
sentence?
into the penal system in the United States. And once you're running on that track, you really do get a dose of reality. If you have an IQ above single digit, you can sit there and think, well, maybe I've messed up enough. Maybe I've disappointed enough people, and maybe it's time that I put my game hat on and get my shit really together instead of going for the low hanging fruit. And that's when I came back, and I had a gym already at that time, and it was just a couple thousand square feet. And I was training people, and I already had hammer equipment and some really cool equipment. And the gym was doing okay because I was training people. I was selling supplements. That's another thing I wanted to laugh about. I used to smuggle supplements. So I would smuggle cigars north, and then I would smuggle supplements south.
I always found, you know what? I always found it humorous that you could buy anything you want in Mexico, but I can't send like species nutrition products to Mexico. It's the craziest thing of all time.
No, you can't. Everybody does it, but it's all smuggled.
Well, yeah, you got to send it to the border, and then they got to bring it over. Yeah, it's the whole.
There's ways of doing it.
This is what you used to basically have to do: send it to the border, and 500 guys in a warehouse empty the powder out of the species jar and put it into a powdered milk box.
Oh my God!
And so when I was sitting in my study at the University of the United States government, I was in my private study, and I had a lot of time to read and think. I said, no more. I am done. And I got out, and I went back to Chicago to the streets, and every one of my friends was on a roll. They were all taking advantage of the vacuum that was left behind when I left. And it was so tempting, but I just kept saying, no, 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 no. And that's when a force greater than myself threw 2 boxes of cigars in my lap. And I said, what can I do with these? And one of my friends said, you know what? Those are getting really popular and really expensive. And I gave him a box, and he sold them. And he said to me, he asked me for another box 2 weeks later. And I said, well, what did you do with the one I gave you? You smoked it? And he said, no, I sold them for $25 a piece. And I was like, $625. Wow.
You underestimated the market.
Yeah.
And I almost ran at that moment to the airport to get back home. And long story short, that was the beginning of my Cuban cigar smuggling career.
Well, how were you making the money before that on the streets?
Well, prior to my time at the University of the United States and all that stuff, I was, I'm trying to think of an eloquent way. I was a street guy. I was a well-rounded street guy. I was a drug dealer. I organized different kind of armed robberies and jobs, and our favorite one was robbing drug dealers.
Wow.
That was the favorite.
Like
because,
cocaine cowboys,
yeah.
Well, a little bit deeper, but because I started in the streets, so I was in a street gang since I was 9. And I came up through the legal system, the juvenile detention centers, and the Audi homes, and the bad boy parochial reform schools. And I was in an orphanage from the age of 10 to 12. So I grew up a rough, underprivileged, difficult life. And I was building a resume that I would need when I really got off and running and became more experienced. So I had a 5-year run that was a book in itself. That's actually my 3rd book, is that 5-year run until the government clipped my wings and I was on the run. So fugitive for 5 years, and that's the following book. That's my 4th.
What were you on the run for? What was the official charge?
Well, I had cocaine trafficking in more than 5 kilograms.
Wow.
I had arms trafficking, counterfeit money, and
He said well-rounded.
and an armored car robbery.
Oh my God. So where were you hiding for 5 years?
It's the funny thing, Dave, when you're experienced and you know how to do these things, you can move. If you live in a city like New York, you can move to another neighborhood and never be found.
Oh, you were in the United States?
I ran away to Mexico for a short period, and I was going crazy because nobody wanted to pay me. It was like, I had to do clandestine meetings and roundabout ways to locate people to keep myself protected, and people were avoiding me. So I met this rather well-known international drug lord, and he said to me, Scott, you got to go home and you got to collect in person, because when you get busted or you're on the run or anything, or you're in jail, it's like you're dead.
Yeah, no one's going to pay you, right?
No one's going to pay you, and they need that money to up the next product, because most of a big part of my business was on credit. I had 20 guys that I just fronted product to, and I drove around every day, and my favorite phrase was, "You got my money?" I taught people. As soon as they answered, I was like, "Got my money? Got my money?"
What if they didn't have it?
Well, Dave, I'll leave that up to you, because in my
Were you throwing
experience
beatings?
in life, Italians are the worst people to owe money to. You have that cliche and that old joke about the Jewish people.
Yeah.
I think the Italians beat them.
Yeah. As far as money flowing. Did you run in the same circles as Mel Chancey back then, or no?
I did. Mel Chancey was a biker, and I did know some bikers, and I guarantee Mel and I know some of the same people. And my good friend and brother at the university, John Romano, is going to one day introduce me to Mel.
Yeah, you guys definitely have to know the same people.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
because you guys ran in the same city. I mean, come on.
I think Mel was from the south side of Chicago, which was there was it's another world. We actually, people don't even like each other. We have two different baseball teams, and the intellectuals will actually have fistfights over whose baseball team is more significant.
So you go on the run for 5 years, and and how did you have a lot of money stashed away? Is that how you supported yourself?
Well, Dave, here comes the truth.
Okay.
When I came back and people weren't paying me, being a fugitive is probably the hardest thing I ever did in my life. It's a very, very difficult existence, because at any minute you can just be nabbed, and they're 24 hours a day. They're out there looking at you. So 26 hours a day, you're on the defensive. So I collected what I could, but I still had bad habits. And I had good habits that were expensive. I liked fancy cars, hot women, and an expensive lifestyle. So I was burning through all of my ill-gotten gains really fast. And it took a while for me to settle down and say, wait, I better screw my head on right. And I was pretty much broke by that time. So I was a little angry, a little bitter, and I went on a tear. And anybody who was dealing was in my sights, and they were a target. And
so you were robbing that's when you were robbing the dealers?
That's when I came back robbing them with a vengeance. Before I was almost a nice guy. Now I was a little bitter and a little angry, and I was going to get mine. And I knew that I was on I had a short shelf life, and I would have to eventually disappear for good. So I was gonna make that nest a little more secure. And I started doing heavier, deeper, more organized and smarter stuff. And while I was on the run, I didn't get caught for anything, except one of the guys that I decided to rob became a Chicago cop. And he became my nemesis. He hunted me like a caged animal, and he let everybody know. And I was probably his inspiration to his ambition, because he became citywide narcotics detective squad.
Wow.
And those are the guys that can beat you and plant stuff on you. and put you away for a long time. So I don't want to get too brash and bold, but
Yeah.
if he didn't become a cop, there was nothing he could have done to me, even if I was standing in front of him. And so by being a cop, he equaled out that playing field, and he surpassed me, because I was just a scumbag ex-con, and he had a big shiny badge.
Wait, Scott recently did a podcast in Chicago, and one of the podcast hosts happened to have been years ago one of Scott's victims.
Oh no! Oh no! Shit.
And then there he is on a podcast being interviewed by the guy.
You're making me blush, John. Well, actually, him and I didn't. We hashed that out before the podcast started, because it's years ago. He was only an employee at the business, and I was a patron. I guess I have more rights than him. And me and another guy came in with ski masks and big revolvers. And the doorman, the guy who was supposed to be doing security, we caught him what you would call sleeping. And we grabbed him. So I had him by the hair when I went to the office door, and I knocked on the door and I said, "You just smile. That's all you do." And so they looked through the little peek hole, and they saw him, and they opened the door, and then we just rushed them all in the office. And then this guy said, "Who was it that was pulling my hair?" And I said, "Unfortunately, that was me." And so we took the safe, the entire safe, and the manager had a Rolex on, so we couldn't pass that up, because John, I was with my friend Whacker, and he didn't have a Rolex. I already had one.
Oh.
So I had to help Whacker get a Rolex. So not only did we do that, we went back in that place a week later, and we went up to the bar, sat there drinking, and everybody was looking at us, everybody. But they were probably thinking, so bold and so brazen, and Whacker was wearing the watch at the bar.
Oh no!
And the manager came up, and he nonchalantly stood next to us, trying to ID our voices to see if he could recognize us. And
Wow.
The funny thing that this guy reminded me was, that night when we went there, Whacker said, there was a group of people, and he said, "All the employees, everybody, we want your wallets, we want your jewelry, we want everything." And then I said, no. And I pulled him to the side, and we had a powwow, and we came back and we said, "No, all the employees, you can keep everything. We're not taking your stuff. We're only here for the business." And he told us, "You guys were like heroes." And I always felt like Robin Hood. The truth is, I always kind of felt like Robin Hood, because I never did it to anybody that really didn't have it coming. And if you are in any type of black market, or you're in the underground, it's every man for himself. It's shark eat shark.
Yep. There's no police force you can call.
Well, one guy called the police once.
Really?
Yeah. Because they were desperate. They had no way to find me.
So a drug dealer called the cops to report that a robbery.
Yeah.
All right, you got to tell that. You got to tell me that one.
And so the young aspiring criminals out there that are listening to us can learn something. I never took a photograph ever. There was no photograph at my high school, no yearbook, no wrestling team, no football team. Any time it was photo day, I was absent.
Why is that?
Because I was a criminal since an early age, and I knew every track that you leave could be your downfall. So they got as far that they called the police, and they reported it as just a home invasion, nothing to do with drugs, because they had people inside the police, like we all did probably, and they just wanted a lead. Who is the guy So they followed me. They got as far as to my high school, and they went in the office and they looked through all of the yearbooks.
Oh
Never,
my God.
never ID'd.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah.
What was the biggest score you ever made? Like single score? Like where you like either robbed someone or you know?
Well, there's a couple that are significant. Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say 400 in 1984.
400 grand?
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge.
That's like
And
that's like a
and
million and a
my
half bucks
home,
right now.
I bought my first home at 19, and I paid $50,000 cash.
Cash, probably. Yeah. What? Let me ask you this question. Do you think they're going to make a movie of your life?
Yes.
You know, Dave, it's because
Scorsese
of your
should do it.
partner and that ex-con sitting next to you that I ever even wrote this, because he used to push me and I would say, nah, I don't, you know, there's some pain, there's some embarrassment. I smile now because I'm an old man and these are like dirty memories to me. It's kind of like that old guy remembering his high school sweetheart. And John Romano kept pushing me, and he where he messed up was I was probably deep inside waiting. Well, when are you going to tell me you'll write it?
Yeah, I was just John, why did you write the script? Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's he had a right to look. It's like you get one of those giant industrial barrels of chocolate chip cookies at Walmart, okay? And the one you want has got an M&M in it. It's all the way at the bottom around the back. And so you got to either eat them all or get some way to get down into that. So you got to write the. You got to give me the cookie before I can eat it. You know,
now you can write a book and you can just tell ChatGPT to turn it into a script and probably get big.
Yeah, you can't do that.
It's not.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. So what I did is I wrote 150. So back to that answer before I switch. I have a tendency to do that. So I never thought about it, and I had two other friends that we were elbow to elbow in the trenches, and one of them was a very, very intense and extreme criminal, and he said nobody is ever writing a book or telling a story while we're all here. And so we all agreed nobody's telling a story, nobody's writing a book, and the two of those guys passed away about 5 years ago. So John's instigation, his inspiration, his persistence, he called me when he saw Sons of Anarchy, and he said to me, you know what, Scott, you got to write your story, man. You're going to miss the bus because, you know, you're going to get old and you're going to die and nobody's going to know what kind of life you live. He said, I just saw Sons of Anarchy and your story is way better. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
Those bikers were like Boy Scouts compared to.
I want to give you just something. My father was a writer. My father, this is when my father was about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. My father was like still obviously coherent. He was alive. And there was a guy who I was friends with who had gotten out of jail, and he was a wise guy. And they were in New York they were doing what you do. They would rob drug dealers, and they give the drug deal, if they didn't get paid, they would basically get rid of the guys, you know.
Yeah.
The guys, they drop them with certain minority group, and they would take care of it for them. But they were making a ton of money, and this guy got arrested, and luckily the guy who he supposedly pulled the trigger on or whatever the witness closed his eyes because he didn't want to see it or something like that. So the guy only did 5 years. So he gets out, he writes this whole treatise, this whole movie thing. And, you know, he's like, and I was telling my father, you know, as a writer and everything, he's like, would your father read it? So I had my father read the thing. And he's like, you know what? The story is pretty good. The main character is not he's not a likable guy. He's a bad dude. And there was the ending. You got to have there's got to be redemption at the end. He goes, or no one's going to want to watch this movie, he said. And so you kind of seem like you have redemption at some point, right?
I do, and multiple levels. So when I started the cigars, it was because I refused to go back to that world. And there was,
Right.
I had way more opportunity at that time because I had lived in Mexico for 5 years and I had made contacts across the globe and I had brokered deals. Like I had people coming down from the US and I remember in one of these broker deals, I had a legitimate Colombian capo here and I introduced him to this legitimate Mexican capo. And imagine that
Wow.
this American from 5,000 miles away is putting these guys in the same
Right.
room. And often when I was in a room with two people that were going to do an illegal business and I had nothing, no skin in the game, I removed myself from that table or that room. I want to be the guy that they say he didn't know anything. And sometimes even that backfires. But there's a lot of redemption on my part. I grew up, I matured, and in my defense, I didn't know what I was doing when I was young. I was running on instinct, and I was just, it was the momentum taking me because of where I came from. I didn't think a lot of things, they weren't explained to me that they're really wrong. You're not going to get anything on your own. You got to go out and steal it.
Now, was all the money?
Wait. Kids, don't listen to that.
Don't listen to me. No, but the point, he's being sarcastic. But the point is, did you start that first gym with the money you made from the cigars? Is that where everything came from?
No, I had a partner. I had this doctor who was helping me. He believed in me because I was boxing and kickboxing. And I started giving a lot of classes and his gym started doing really well. So then he opened up another place for me and he believed in me, but we didn't have the money to grow where we wanted. So I approached, and it's in my book, I approached two different friends that were players in the game and they both denied me because everybody's selfish. Everybody wants their own world. And I didn't take it. I wasn't offended. I said, you know what? I got to figure out a way to do this. And that's when the cigars landed in my lap. And I said to myself, okay, I promise no more crime, but is smuggling cigars really a crime? And my answer to myself was, not really. It's a gray line. It's not black and white because,
John, it's like
Bill Clinton
peptides.
is
It's like
smoking them.
peptides. Yeah.
It's a gray area.
Well, I
You know what it
knew
is?
that. I
No,
knew
but
for
you know
a
what,
federal
Scott? Hold on.
prosecutor, it wasn't
I'm
a gray
stopping
area.
you. I'm stopping you. It's illegal. The problem is that what you were doing before was so terrible that compared to that, it's not so bad,
And I have to correct you, Dave. I'm sorry when you said he's being sarcastic. I love sarcasm, but when I said if we wanted something, we had to go out and steal it, that was 100% our motto. I wasn't being sarcastic.
No, I know it's your motto, but I don't think you were giving advice to other people.
No, I'm not giving anybody advice. It's a terrible, sad existence. I have a childhood friend.
If you need something in life, just go steal it. Yeah.
My childhood friend called me the other day and he saw that podcast I did a week ago and he said, Scott, I never knew how bad your life was. I said, yeah, no kids know. You don't know that the kid next door that his life is terrible. So I had a terrible life and I learned a lot of bad things. And it took me to mature to actually stand back and go, oh, wait a minute, that's not cool. But it was exhilarating.
Yeah.
Imagine the buildup, Dave. Me, you, and John. We're in your basement and we're scrubbing down and oiling up our firearms. We got on the table, we got ski mask, handcuff, that back then they were spare cuffs. The cops used their zip ties, they're just bigger. Always had some kind of tape, certain clothes, cleaned, ready, and spread it out like a SWAT team and get in the car. And you are driving to a destination that you don't know what's beyond that door, even though I did a lot of research and surveillance.
I don't know. I'm a nervous wreck just hearing about it. I don't think I could have done it.
The anxiety was sometimes almost unbearable because when things happen like this, you don't have a time to think, you react.
Right.
But when you're planning for 6 weeks, 2 months, now there's anxiety because there's so many variables and things that you can't control. What if the cops just happen to be staking him out and watching?
Right.
Now you are in a big mess. So we did a lot of stuff to prevent, and I can proudly say nobody ever got hurt on my watch. There was minimal violence. Violence, a kick, a punch. It's not real violence.
Hair pull. Yeah.
No, we're talking about breaking canes over people's heads. I mean,
the hair pull from earlier.
but it wasn't Rain Man. He pinched and squeezed my nose. It wasn't like that.
Well, and so then I wrote that 150,000 word manuscript for the book Smoke. I'll show it again. And I wrote it and I sent it to John Romano, and God bless him. He worked with me. It was about 4 months. He edited it.
You read that whole thing, John?
I didn't read it. I pieced it together.
It was a mess, Dave. It was a complete embarrassment. That's why I could only send it to John.
Is John your partner in this project now?
He's not, because John has a life of his own. He doesn't have time to babysit his 62-year-old friend who's writing his books. And it's kind of like, I looked in the mirror one day and I said, listen, you fucking Jew, go spend a couple bucks, find a real editor you can pay $300 or $400 for 6 months work.
Give him a box of cigars. That's all. Yeah.
So that's when I found David Goggins' publishing company, and I reached out to them, and I went through a couple editors that couldn't keep up with the heat, and then one day I had to look in the mirror and take account and responsibility, and said, this manuscript is fucking terrible. A 4-year-old could have written a better one. And I sat down for 4 days. I barely slept, barely ate, didn't train. And I put my nose to the grinder and I edited it myself. I first removed the fat. I started taking out stuff that just was overkill and too much. Right. Then when I had a bare bones script, I started making chapters and putting it in a chronological order. What I sent to John, I'm sorry, John, I didn't know, because I didn't even want to look at it.
Well, no.
It's funny. I'm like going through this thing. Now you got 150,000 words is voluminous, okay?
It's like a 700-page book.
And I read it like 40 times while I was doing it, because what would happen is I'm reading something and I edit it, I put it back, I move this over here and put this over here, so it's chronological. And then I'm going and going and going. There's more stuff happening. The stories in this book are insane. And then all of a sudden I'm reading them and I go, wait, that sounds familiar. Let me go back. And then, he said that already, but this is way better over here. So then I take the thing from the back and put it in the front.
There's a lot of redundancy. In other words, a lot of redundancy.
I didn't know the process. Now I have all my other manuscripts tight and in order, because I learned at least my way of doing it, which is a much more controlled chaos than the first initial one. But to John's credit, and because of John, he said to me, he would constantly repeat, just write a page a day. Write a page a day. That's all you need to do. So I went out and I bought the iPad and the keypad, and John told me download the app Pages, and I just started writing. And lo and behold, that was about 4 years ago. And now I have a published book, and I'm on my way to 3 more. And I did most of the editing myself. I put it in a manuscript that a skilled editor could finish promptly without a lot of guesswork, because I still need editors. I'm not a magician. But now I have this new editor, Holly, and she is absolutely amazing, because she's patient, she's working along with me, and I'm sneaking in. I took the manuscript and I made it bare bones. It was, let's call it 75,000 words. So I fit into a different bracket for a manuscript. It's not complicated, easier. And then when I have these ideas and these brainstorms, I email them to her, and she doesn't tell me to go fuck off yet.
Oh, well, that's good.
Because the first
So
editor after John did, John just would ghost me. So I know John's busy. I'm not going to bother him every 5 minutes.
So what? So
Wait, whoa. It wasn't that. It wasn't that at all.
You're
So
busy.
what are you doing now? You're doing the second book? Is that what's
Wait. I got to address that. So the thing is this: you are, when you're sitting in front of 150,000 words, you can't. I mean, and you're reading and you're writing, you're typing, you're going over, and then all of a sudden you got something that sounds familiar. Then you got to go back 100,000 words and like, where was that? It was here somewhere.
I know, John. It was difficult, and you're busy.
No, so that's why
you got work, you've got a wife, and.
But that's all beside the point. If that's why it took the time, it was because it was tedious. I mean, it was
impatient. I want to talk
and
to
that too. That's a factor.
Who was the editor over
John
at
to send me a
AMD who got
message.
fired?
I want him to say that chapter is great. Oh man, did you
Blackman's
really?
got some editors that need
cool.
work, doesn't he?
What?
Steve Blackman's got editors that need work. They're out of work.
So now, Dave,
who was
you
the
asked me
editor
a
over there? Was
question.
that Alan? What was the? No, not Alan. But was the
Alan
editor?
Alan Grolnick. There was an Alan
I liked
Grolnick.
Alan. I got along well with Alan.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay. So you should
Not-
hire him.
you know, Dave, the steak dinners at the restaurant with everybody sitting around.
Yes,
Did you
Scott's
get-
been there.
Scott's had a
been there.
massage and a bone fillet.
Scott has gotten a shoulder massage. Yes, he has.
Wow.
And Dave, you were there one time. We all went to that steakhouse in Dallas.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Do you
I couldn't think of
remember-
where
And then
Yeah.
after dinner, we went down the street and we started to see the two X's on the ground where Kennedy got shot.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I remember
Well-
one time I made a mistake and I didn't know Blackman's likes and dislikes, and he's like, we were very close to Arlington, Texas, and he said Steakhouse, and I said, yeah, I saw one right down the street. And it was like a pumped up version of Sizzler. And,
Oh no!
and you should have seen the look on Steve's face when he saw the guy at the door in cowboy boots and a big belt buckle.
Vino Viagra.
Yeah, the wine, it was one of those restaurants where the wine comes out of a box.
Yeah, it was kind of like Roadhouse. Maybe it was even a Roadhouse.
We probably would have had a better time there, but the food wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah, right.
I mean, all I need, Dave, I've been eating like this forever. I need a steak and a sweet potato with no butter, some green beans, and a glass of water, and I'm set. He needs a $600 steak. I get it. So
and a bottle of wine. But I love, that's one thing I'll never put him down for. The dinners with Blackman were the best.
The best.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The best.
Awesome. But
all right,
almost
get back to your books. You got
steakhouses.
hold on. So Smoke's out, and now you're working on the second one. Is that what's going on?
I'm working on 3 more. So 3 more are with the publisher, but
Okay.
the second book, which I'm titling Street Raised, The Making of a Criminal, that one is in the final edit. So over the next 3 days, that one will be a closed manuscript and sent to QA for all of the next stages of editing, but I won't be able to add or subtract.
Let me give you some suggestion before we wrap up, because I know John's got to go. I got to go. I think you should do an audio book because you have a good speaking voice.
Yes.
You're very dynamic. I would like to hear you read the book.
I would too.
I would listen to it while I was driving and stuff like that. And I think that you're going to sell more copies of an audio book.
Fuck. Thank you. Because I've been so insecure about that. The problem is, have you ever tried to read to somebody? I can't read a sentence without making a mistake.
You wrote it though. You should be able to read it.
But I've got, my brain works like, did you ever see that movie, The Brilliant Mind with Crowe?
Yeah,
Russell
A Beautiful
Crowe.
Mind with
Yeah,
Russell Crowe.
my brain works like that. I'll share with you guys something.
But it's your story, because I want to hear you. I want to hear you tell me your story. I want to hear it.
Here's a great example. Here's a great example of one of me. Real quick, it's not. Like I said, there's 100 stories in that book. Just tell the story about when you got the Rolex stolen in Mexico City.
All right, and then we'll wrap up.
I went to the studio yesterday, and I did the acknowledgments. I did the dedication, and I did something else, like last word or something. And I did it, and it went well. And so my next 3 books I want to do the audiobook myself because there is a value in my voice because I can tell it with meaning.
Right.
Yeah, and you got the Chicago accent, and you got it's. You sound like you.
What accent? What do you mean?
Listen, the fact that you're still alive is a miracle.
I'm funny.
Miracle.
What do you mean I'm funny?
Miracle.
What do you mean I'm funny? Like I make you laugh? I amuse you?
So Pesci.
You're looking clown. Yeah, a little clown.
Dave, I appreciate you saying that because all of these suggestions and encouragement help me finally pull the trigger and do it myself because, it's not my world. You guys have been in broadcasting now for a long time.
Yeah.
My first podcast was a year ago. So I'm just starting to get comfortable and acclimate to my own voice.
Well, you got a story, so now you got to promote your story so that people want to hear it because they don't know. Chaz Palminteri wrote the Bronx Tale. He couldn't get any acting gigs. He had done a lot of guest appearances on a lot of TV shows, and then once you do one back in the 70s, 80s, they're done with you. So he didn't know what to do. So he wrote his story and he turned it into like a one-man show, and he would go around doing it, and people loved it. People loved it, and they wanted to buy it from him. The studios, but they didn't want him to act. He said, if I sell, it was like a Stallone story. He goes, if you buy it, I got to play Sonny, the wise guy in the movie.
Right.
And what a great movie. What a great movie.
He wouldn't sell it to him. They offered him like $1 million. He wouldn't do it unless, so finally De Niro got a hold of him. He saw him do the one-man show. And he's like, listen, he goes, you could either do it with me or they're going to buy it and hire me to do it anyway. So they made a deal and they did the movie together. But
boy, that's leverage.
The reason why people wanted the movie was because he went out there and was talking and performing it everywhere as a one-man show. Now, there wasn't any podcast back then. Nowadays, you got to take that story and start telling it so that people say, these are great stories. We got to see a movie in this. And then that's how you get a movie made,
Right.
I got a question for you, Dave. Before you guys tell me to go piss off, Mike. I have. Can I mention my handle here?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
It's Scott Anthony OG, and I'm on all the social media. And maybe the wonderful girls from my office can send you guys a link to my Genie link for Amazon where to find the book.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll put it in the description.
It's also on my website, www.scottanthonyog.com. Website's got all kinds of pictures, videos, podcasts. Pretty cool.
Wow. Really cool.
Yeah, well, definitely.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and tell us these great stories. And I really want to read the book, but I don't think I'm going to have the time. So I think when the audio book comes out, you let me know, and I'm going to listen to the audio book while I drive.
Well, I'm the same way. But I've read my books like 500 times. It gets to the point where I have to do this again.
John read the unabridged versions of your book. So.
No, but he's gonna read.
I'm telling I am so excited to read now the finished product
because you'll never are going to do a blurb on my next book. So you
I wrote the foreword on this one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Right. I'll pick it up.
I have no credit for it, but I wrote the foreword for it. Yeah.
No, you didn't get credit for it?
I changed it up a little bit.
Oh my God.
Just because the searches I was doing for prior cigar smuggling cases, I couldn't find them in Mexico. So once I was in the US, I did these searches and found a lot more. So cool. I mentioned a few of those in there.
Good.
Right.
Good.
All right. Well, Scott, the book is Smoke. Scott Anthony. Check out all his social medias. Scott Anthony OG. I guess that's at Scott Anthony OG for all the social medias. You on TikTok too?
I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram.
That's really
OG. X and my webpage. So
all right,
I'm all over the place. I got some young, clever people helping me in the office.
That's great. I love it. And the gym, and you still got the gyms down in Mexico, right?
I have one huge health club, and we're turning it into something special, Dave. We're putting a podcast studio inside of the restaurant on the first floor. We're putting furnished, completely done suites. So people who come for the podcast can stay, and then they can go and work out in the gym at any time of the night.
I'll come.
And
I'll
we're
come.
doing an outdoor rooftop gym area, 7,000 square feet outdoor in the sun in Mexico. And we are going to do Dave Palumbo, John Romano fitness camps. Come down
Let's do
here,
it.
get a quick anabolic explanation.
There's a
spend
pharmacy
time with
right
these
across the
guys,
street.
Eat the meals, and John can go in the kitchen and cook
I accept.
for everybody.
I accept. We're coming. John and I are
So
coming.
John
Just
can
tell
cook
us
for
when it's
everybody.
That's
when
coming
it's done.
soon.
I can't wait.
That's
And
good,
we
guys.
got to figure out how to get species into Mexico.
Yeah, you seem to have that figured out already. So I'll send you a price list if you want, and let's do it.
Let's work on it.
All right.
There's a way.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Well, it seems like Scott has figured out the way to pretty much do anything, John. So
And I'd like
pretty
to close
much.
with
if
one
you can
more
get the
comment.
cigars in here, you can get the species into Mexico.
Yes.
I've been riding John for about 18 years to get me on this podcast. Please don't wait 18 years more. We'll
It was
all
only
be old.
17 years because we just turned 17. We're not 18 yet, but you were
Yeah,
close.
but I started bothering him when he told me I'm leaving Fort Lauderdale and I'm going to build a studio.
That's right.
That's
That was
right.
in
That's
09.
right. We're in New York.
2009. I can't even believe how long ago it was.
2009. Yep.
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
You've
it
dated
was.
us. Well, I'm so proud and so happy that you got this book done and you got the other
Me
books
too.
on the way. And I'm
Thanks for the
excited to read them
encouragement and the support, guys.
and come see you down
Anytime.
there. All right, guys, that's going to take us to the end of another edition of the Palumbo Podcast. I'm John Romano for our
You're
good
John
friend
Romano?
Scott Anthony. Listen, we have John Romano with our good friend Scott Anthony. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.